This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hi, this is Eliot Ballade, and you're listening to the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod.
Winterfest is here! Pull on your Christmas jumper and cozy down by the fire for a full weekend of festive gaming content. Our gift to you, right here on Radio Sega.
Season's greetings, junkies, and happy holidays. Welcome to the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod, and today we have a special Radio Sega Winterfest episode for you. We wanted to do something a little Christmassy themed, so what better game to get us in the holiday spirit than Blue Stinger?
Yeah!
My name is Brian, and joining me on this fireside chat, if we want to go with the theme, is Lewis. How are you doing, Lewis?
Hello, I am excited to talk about our game today. I have my can of Hassie ready, as you can hear. There you go.
Ooh. Nice.
That was a prop that I bought earlier, by the way, just for this.
We also have Harvey, a.k.a. Pizza Hotline, joining us. How are you doing, man?
Howdy. I'm good, mate. I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite games on the Dreamcast.
Likewise. And finally, we have Dominic, the Dreamcast enjoyer on YouTube. How are you doing?
Hello there, I'm doing very well. Yeah, I'm also super excited. This is possibly my all-time favorite game, so I'm pretty pumped to talk about it.
As are we all, except maybe Lewis, but we can get into that later. But yeah, we wanted to just start off and thank everybody at Radio Sega for letting us participate. This is the 10-year mark of the Winterfest premium Sega-flavored holiday content coming your way this weekend. So if you're listening to us via Radio Sega, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hope you stick around. Feel free to subscribe to the podcast, of which we have 136 other episodes that you can listen to. We are also primarily a blog site, or at least originally, at thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. I'm sure if you just Google Dreamcast Junkyard, it'll show up for you. And then I think there were some other bits of housekeeping, Lewis, if you want to mention.
Oh, yeah. Yes, just wanted to shout out the Dream Disc 24 Dreamcast Game Jam, which is starting on the 20th of December, and that will be running until Friday the 3rd of January. You can check out our blog for details, but it'll basically be a bunch of really cool developers and passionate people in the scene coming together to develop software and little games and demos and stuff like that. So if you want to try out some of those projects on your Dreamcast, tune in and see what people are getting up to.
Fantastic. And I think we'll just start with a little bit of I'd say a softball question, but a snowball question. Let's go with that. Just to get the ball rolling here, so to speak. What tradition helps you get into the festive holiday spirit? And this can be gaming-wise, it can be other media. I don't know, Lewis, if you do want to kick us off, what's getting you ready for the holiday right now?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last year when we did a Christmas episode for Radio Sega, so I won't repeat myself too much, but my big thing is I love Christmas music, but particularly punk covers and punk Christmas songs. And I annoy everyone by playing these. I'm like, why don't you just play the classics? Like, these are the classics in my house. So I won't harp on too much about it because I've mentioned it before, but I will give you one track. That is Christmas Vacation by the Descendants. I've been enjoying that one a lot recently. Good little tune. And obviously Christmas films are a thing that I'm sure everyone does around this time of year. Me and my wife are currently kind of doing it. We've got a list of films that are like not actually Christmas films, but have Christmas, settings. So we've got a few of those on the go. We watched The Boat That Rocked the other day, and there was just like 10 minutes that were at Christmas, so that was a bit disappointing. But good film other than that, yeah. And yeah, for deeper into December, around my birthday, which is on the 22nd, we do tend to go to York and I'll always go into Sore Thumbs, which is an amazing retro game shop there. It's like got so many things in there. I usually end up buying a few Dreamcast games, actually, like PAL ones that I don't have already. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that when that time comes.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm also looking for ideas, so allow me to poach whatever you all recommend as we go through this. I just feel like I've been listening and watching the same stuff every year, and it'd be kind of nice to mix it up a little bit, But yeah, how about you, Dominic?
So it probably won't surprise you to hear a lot of my traditions revolve around gaming. I do like Christmas films and Christmas music as well, but I have a handful of kind of vaguely Christmas-related games that I replay every single year. Blue Sting is obviously one of them. The Toy Commander Christmas demo is another one. I'm guessing, have we all played that?
Oh, yeah.
That's a fine game. And then a couple of really weird ones, but they are set at Christmas. Hybrid Heaven for the N64. Anybody play that?
Ooh. I've heard that. I've heard of this game. Is it like a side-scrolling beat-em-up RPG kind of thing?
It is a beat-em-up RPG, but it's not side-scrolling.
Oh, okay.
It is the Blue Stinger of the N64. I'll leave it at that. It's got a bizarre,
Now you got my attention.
underground alien conspiracy with jarg voice acting, weird graphics, and an incredibly janky setup, and it's amazing. And then I also like Parasite Eve and Raw Danger. Raw Danger. Raw Danger's a jarg PS2 game set at Christmas. It's the sequel to Disaster Report.
That actually reminds me, Disaster Report 4, not the game itself, because it's based in the summertime, but there's an epilogue chapter that they... that's
I remember hearing about that. I haven't played it yet, though.
Yeah, that one does take place around Christmas time. That just reminded me.
That might get added in this year, then. I might have to look into that.
It's such a good game. I really love it. No, very nice. And how about you, Harvey?
For me, yeah, usually video games. I try every Christmas. I try and find a game that I think my wife is going to kind of play with me, because she's not a massive gamer. But if I show her a game that's kind of like a really interesting story and it's not too technical with the thumbsticks, because that's where she kind of struggles, then I love it when she kind of gets involved and we play games together. And usually it's Shenmue 1 or 2, playing that at Christmas. Got loads of time in the world, and that's a game that will, suck your time away from you. So that's a really good one to play at Christmas. I do love it. And, you can see Santa Claus if you go down to Debuta Street on the 25th of December. So, I'd say Shenmue, or just any kind of game. We quite like detective games. We played L.A. Noire one year. We played...
Nice.
Return of the Obra Dinn another year, which is like another detective game, anything like that. But my answer would probably be Shenmue.
That's a classic holiday tradition, both Christmas and New Year's, because there's the the New Year's Day has, I think, Nozomi's friends wear kimonos around.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't lean into that nearly as much as the Christmas season. I think for me, I don't know. I feel like Christmas Vacation's like always the movie that I end up watching.
Love that film.
Yeah. It's also a classic in its own way. Although I was a little perturbed just seeing a post on, I don't know, somewhere on social media that was like a it was a fake mock-up of a modern sequel. It had Chevy Chase and the rest of the cast, but just like older and taking place now when they were retired.
Please no.
I was kind of disappointed to realize that that's not real. So gave my hopes up a little bit, turned my heart just a couple of shades darker.
Oh.
But yeah, as far as Blue Stinger, I think that's kind of helped lift spirits a little bit. I can't speak for everybody here, but I think it's safe to say that at least some of us in the room, Dominic and Harvey and myself, I know we've have a history with this game, and we've enjoyed it for however many years ago we first played it, and it just seems to be one that we've always kind of appreciated, that it felt it made sense to put a podcast together. We can just kind of nerd out over it and just give it a little bit of space and its own due, appreciation in a way that maybe it doesn't always get, although I do think maybe there's a cult following for it. This and Ill Bleed, Nishigaki, and Climax Graphics is other work or Crazy Games. But we can get into some of that later. But for those who are not necessarily familiar with the game, does anybody want to give us kind of an overview of what is Blue Stinger?
I elect Dominic gets us going here.
I'll give it a shot. So just the broad strokes of kind of how the game's set up, you mean, without getting too much into it.
Yeah. Like, how would you describe it to somebody at a Christmas party or at a pub who's like, what the hell's Blue Stinger? Or on a podcast who might be listening to us right now?
I would just say it's one of those incredibly charming, janky games. It's a classic kind of 6th gen action adventure game where, controls and all that sort of stuff hadn't been standardized yet, so people were just figuring it out. And it's just got so much unique stuff. You're exploring a mystery on a kind of futuristic island laboratory with lots of cool stuff like labs and power plants, and there's a lovable cast of characters that I'm sure we'll get into. And there's like a million weapons and all kinds of cool monsters. I'd just tell them to play it.
Yeah, it does seem like kind of a unique game that maybe lately I've come across a few that really do kind of tap into a similar spirit that Blue Stinger had, that kind of had its special sauce. But for the time, I think it was a super unique game. But I guess taking a step back, we can mention that this was also kind of a unique situation that Blue Stinger came into. It was published by Sega in Japan and developed by Climax Graphics and produced by Shinya Nishigaki, who has his own legendary cult fan following that kind of became a very much of passion project of his, and it was very Hollywood influenced, or I guess just film influence in general. When he was a kid, his dad was in the industry, and he kind of was exposed to all the movies he could watch growing up, and throughout his career up in game development up until then, he worked for Climax, which he was on Landstalker, Lady Stalker. He produced Dark Savior for the Saturn, and so eventually when he got to the point where he wanted to do something that really leaned into games as a film-like medium, he came up with Blue Stinger and ended up branching off and having his own kind of sister studio or separate splinter studio to make that happen. Sega picked it up in Japan, but when it came time for the Western releases in PAL territories, North America, everywhere else, Activision actually took over the reins for publishing, but they also had a few mandates that kind of maybe fundamentally ended up changing the game quite a bit from the Japanese version. I don't know if either of you want to just describe or give an overview of like what those two tracks kind of were.
So I've got a little bit of a list of Japanese differences that we can scoot through later if you want. But I guess the big one that people talk about is the change of camera angle. In the Japanese version, you have a lot of fixed camera angles or tracking shots, very much like a Resident Evil, or more like Resident Evil Code Veronica or Dino Crisis, because the camera does still move a lot. It's fixed and it's often far away in a corner. Whereas in the Western versions of it, it's a more standard kind of behind the back. I was going to say standard. Nowadays, it's all over the shoulder, isn't it? But standard for that time, behind the character's back, running along. The normal view you would expect for a third-person action. But there's also changes in some of the dialogue and some of the actual assets that are in-game and some of the text as well. So I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and a bit of censorship, of course, as there often was for games like this.
I didn't actually realize there was other changes apart from the camera. But the camera is such a dramatic difference, the change between the Japanese and the American version. And Brian, you pointed out I didn't quite realize this at the time, but you can just switch between games and the save will work. So I started doing that a few times just in this last week, and it is so different playing it with that different camera angle, because there's loads of things that I never really spotted before playing the North American version. Or the PAL version. You can see, like, the one thing I did notice was a lot of signs above doors and how much effort they put into all these tiny little elements throughout the level that I'd only really kind of noticed with the Japanese version.
Yeah, it's almost like the Japanese version kind of made the environments more of a character in themselves, and just the way that they had set up the framing and wanted the player to really pay attention to certain things in the environment that it was drawing you to. This is a much more vibrant, kind of spectacular environment compared to a setting like a Resident Evil's or Silent Hills, which tend to be a lot more muted, a little more brooding. This is maybe that in some spots, but for the most part, I think Blue Stinger just has such a vibrant color palette, and a lot of, I guess, neon lighting and other flourishes that kind of made the environment stand out, juxtaposed with the the more horror themes of the game at times. So
I noted down actually that I found some of the environments to be weirdly cozy. Quite inviting as well. Like I kind of enjoyed roaming around them, and it's not like I've just been playing a lot of Silent Hill recently. It's like the total opposite. It's like I kind of want to hang out here. I don't want to be in the hospital in Silent Hill 2. Do you know what I mean? And obviously the whole reason why this is considered a Christmas game is obviously Hello Market, and I mean, what's more inviting than a Christmas area?
Yeah, all those signs and stuff when you go. Is it the town or something where the Hello Market is?
Labo Town, yeah.
Labo Town. Like when you rock up there, it's like, whoa, those signs are insane, man. Like I just spent ages just like looking at them and reading them and kind of checking all of them over, and it's really like, it's amazing. And as you said, Lewis, super inviting. Super inviting. Really,
and the arcade, boys. Got to talk about the arcade. That's very inviting too.
Yeah, that arcade.
Sega official, Sega branded Digimuse arcade.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Wasn't there? Didn't they use a director of photography or someone who? What was his name? He was like Hollywood.
Yeah. So Pete Von Shirley. Yeah, he worked on The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption, and he also did the camera work for this game. So on the Japanese version, all those kind of cool sweeping pan shots that you get, all very dramatic angles, he kind of directed and set that up, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. So when Activision, it was Activision that changed it to a,
yeah, and they were like, yeah, we know better than the guy that worked on Shawshank Redemption. Yeah. That's basically what they were saying.
All his work went down the toilet with the North American version. Isn't that crazy?
I must admit, though, I do like the behind the back camera. I find it more manageable. Me too. But I love the camera angles.
Well, it's kind of funny how prophetic it was for, at the time, I think Blue Stinger was a terrible comparison to Resident Evil, as they were on the PlayStation and Dreamcast, just because those first RE games, and Silent Hill for that matter, were, kind of steeped in scarcity as a huge, prominent component of survival horror as a genre, and Blue Stinger kind of flew in the face of all of that, right? It was a game about abundance of firepower, of money, of weapons, of healing items, whatever you wanted, you could buy it from vending machines.
It's like maximalist, right?
Yeah.
It's like this commercial, like, buy things, keep buying. You go into like the really loud supermarket and there's just like colours everywhere and it's like, collect all the stamps, buy more stuff.
There's even, did you guys get to this part on the second floor of the supermarket where there's a room that won't let you in unless you have, I think it's like 10 grand on you, and the thing comes down and scans you.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so like RoboCop, like dystopian future, but it's really funny.
I did the money cheat on my second playthrough just so I could get through it fast.
Once you've beat the game once, just do the money cheat.
yeah, so I could get in that room easily. The first time I had to go and grind to get in that room. I remember doing it and it took me ages. But it's great because, as you said, Brian, it's all about, it just gives you so much money and you can just keep going in and out of a room over and over and over and just killing the same thing with a bat and grinding for cash.
That's why it almost felt like a beat 'em up to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the only thing that's survival horror about it is the fact it's not even survival horror, but it's just like slightly horror. But even that, it's still quite goofy. It's not got like, it's not very scary. But some of the musical stabs are quite scary. When it like shows you something and it has all like the tense violins, that's kind of horror-ish. But it is such a mishmash of so many like contrasting genre elements, which is one of the reasons that I love it so much.
I think I read somewhere, it must have been Game Developer or something, some retrospective, where they mentioned that they had a 50-piece orchestra doing,
no way.
A very intentionally Hollywood-esque cinematic soundtrack.
Wow.
Well, to play into the cinematic underpinnings of the game, right? Like this was the whole goal. Is Nishigaki wanted a big, not big budget, but big boisterous spectacle.
Yeah.
And so that kind of played through all sorts of aspects of the game, including the soundtrack.
There's something I want to touch on actually. Because obviously it sounds like the guy obviously loved movies and wanted to create quite a cinematic game. And I think overall on the internet, it seems like the narrative has lost kind of what it was going for. Like we talk about Shenmue and this big narrative game. It's so cinematic and like, this huge big story. It's like this huge event. And there's all these bits in Blue Stinger and you think like, wow, like they really wanted to create something quite huge here. And I noted this down because it's something I noticed when I started to play the game. So Blue Stinger, and I feel like maybe this was quite a rare thing at the time. Like maybe, I don't know, does Final Fantasy or one of those games have quite a long intro bit like of story? Because Shenmue, I went and I tested it. From the moment you press start game to the time that you take control of Ryo Hazuki, it is 8 minutes and 53 seconds. And then on Blue Stinger...
Did you time that?
Yeah, on Blue Stinger, from the time you click start game to taking control of Eliot, it is 8 minutes, 30 seconds. So that's only 23 seconds less than Shenmue. So, we've been not giving Blue Stinger its flowers as far as like, being a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah. Like it's a bit misunderstood, would you say?
Yeah. You can tell that there was a lot of thought put behind a lot of it, like you were saying about things that were lost with like the signs when you like walk with the Japanese camera angles and stuff like that. But yeah,
there's so much like passion and intention. I'd never thought about how long the intro was because I was like, I'm just into it. As soon as I press start on that game, even like now I've played it 100 times, I'm still ready to go. But thinking on it, that is an unusually long intro for this type of game, so you can see they were going for something big.
Yeah. I think the other thing to finish the point that we were kind of alluding to earlier, but in a lot of ways, Blue Stinger kind of, I guess, hinted at where the genre would go, even with the horror focused, or I guess what we would imagine survival horror being. But, as it became more action oriented and more cinematic and boisterous and vibrant, I mean, it really does feel like Resident Evil 4 and even like something like Dead Rising that, might have been more pure action game in a lot of ways. I think those really were kind of prophesized by Blue Stinger and its unique approach to the genre at the time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Blue Stinger, doesn't get enough credit for the blueprint it set.
Nephilim is following us. Seems like she's in love with you.
2 girls and a guy. I see trouble in the near future.
In your dreams.
I guess taking a step back, what is your earliest experience? We can go around again with Blue Stinger. Lewis, I know you recently started playing it.
Yes.
And how did you find out about it, or what enticed you, or was it just us chatting in the group that you were like, maybe I'll finally get into it?
Yeah. I kept asking people to do the episode, and did you eventually kind of cave? Because
look, I feel like Brian has threatened to turn quite a lot of DreamPods into Blue Stinger specials over the years. So
I think I think there's at least 3 episodes that have became that.
Yeah, but I obviously all 3 of you, like, I value your gaming opinions, and you all love Blue Stinger. So I was like, I have owned the game since I bought the game, I think in around maybe like 2020. It's like, with my Dreamcast disc collection, I've been trying to just like get the standout games that everyone talks about. So I did like boot it up when I got it, and I played it for a little bit. I kept dying, and I kind of was like, oh, that's it. And I intended to play it another time, but as I'm sure all retro game collectors know, we get sidetracked and things just sit on shelves collecting dust. So I thought, what could we do that's a bit different for Christmas this year? And I thought, we've been talking about doing a Blue Stinger special. I think, like you say, Harvey, I think you may have pitched this, and I know Brian would love to do that. So you guys, I kind of got it, helped you guys arrange it, and then I was like, I want to be in on this. Let me join in, because obviously you guys like wax lyrical about this game. So I booted it up, and I remember it maybe 3-4 hours went by, and then I stopped playing and realised that the clothes that I'd put out to dry had been rained on because I was so distracted by Blue Stinger. So there you go. That's my first memories of this game, and that was not too long ago.
It was those long cutscenes that just kept you stuck indoors.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you, Dominic? What did you play this when it first came out?
Yeah, so this is a Christmas 1999 game for me. So that's when my mum and dad got me a Dreamcast, and they got me Sonic Adventure, Toy Commander, and Blue Stinger. Those were the 3 games. Lucky boy that Christmas. That was a great haul.
Hell of a spread.
Yeah, so that still goes down as my most memorable Christmas, I'd say. Me and my dad was really into video games as well. So me and my dad played, a little bit of all of the games on Christmas Day to get into them. And I think Sonic was the one we leaned into the most, because that's just, I guess you get really into Sonic. But I found myself and my dad, we were playing loads of Blue Stinger over that period between Christmas and the New Year. And we were just beating it, replaying it, really, really into it. And it's sadly not with us anymore, my dad, so I can't ask him. But I think I probably was getting a lot more out of it than he was. He liked it, but I was just fascinated by it. I'd never, I was really into survival horror games. I was really into action games. I'd never played a game quite like this. It was so bonkers. It was so bright. It was like the aesthetic of a Sega arcade game. Everything was blue and bright and neon and fast, but then there was monsters and blood everywhere, and there was weapons everywhere. And, I was just turning 11, so it was the perfect age for all that. It was an overload for my tiny brain, and just stuck with me all these years later. I'm still really into it.
Did you complete it back then?
Oh yeah.
Fair play, because me trying to play it in 2022, I guess I'm just a bit of a.
We had the Brady Games guide, I believe, if I remember rightly.
Nice one, nice. Is that the one with the orange spine?
Yes, but I don't have it anymore, and I'm devastated, and I keep thinking I should bid for it on eBay and get it back, even though I don't need it. It's just a nice piece of nostalgia.
I really want one of them too, but I bet, are they 50 quid? I bet they're quite expensive.
Yeah, I think 30, 40, yeah.
You don't need the guide anymore, Dominic. You are an expert.
I am the guide.
You are Eliot G. Ballade. So I was, I guess I'll be next, like trying to like explain when I first played it, and I was actually just flicking. I typed Blue Stinger into my email to search, and I was trying to look at when I bought it. And then what I did is I found the email where I bought it from eBay. So I got it for £17.50, and I bought it on the 7th of May 2021 because I didn't get a Dreamcast until 2020. And then I kept going through my emails, and then after I bought Blue Stinger, right, if I go to the next email, I then ordered a Blue Stinger coaster for my desk.
I'm so jealous of that.
I ordered a triple pack. I ordered a Sega Bass Fishing, a Choo Choo Rocket, and a Blue Stinger coaster, right? Then the next email is a Blue Stinger t-shirt from Redbubble. then no kidding, right? Then it's an eBay message where I eBayed someone selling video game keyrings, and I wrote, "Do you have a Blue Stinger version?" Then I bought the Blue Stinger version keyring, which is still on my house keys. So yeah, I have a lot of Blue Stinger merch. Earlier, Brian, you kind of said about potentially there being a cult. There definitely is one, and I'm a member. Seeing my email history anyway. But yeah, I bought the game in 2021, and I think the reason I bought it is because I heard you guys chatting about it on the DreamPod. I think maybe a few people mentioned it when I used to listen to the DreamPod back then. And I remember looking at footage and thinking, wow, this is such an interesting game. And I've always found traditional survival horrors just too scary. And the reason I really like this game is because it's not scary, but I get a similar kind of like, well, you know, going around attacking monsters with like laboratories and stuff. I guess that's the flavor, the kind of Resident Evil flavor where it's not, you know, very scary. And that kind of, I've never played a game like this that's kind of like not scary but has monsters and loads of gore. You know, it's kind of like it's quite funny to play. It's quite a funny game, and yeah. So I began playing it when I bought the disc, and then I was a bit like Lewis. I bounced off it, and then I think it was last year. I was like, this year I am going to complete Blue Stinger, and I had the best time. I really did have the best time, but there were a few points because where I had to kind of go through. There was a big game FAQs thing, and because there's some points in the game that are quite like, well, you just have to. It's a little bit like Zelda, where you have to think outside the box a bit. You combine these items. Oh, I've got this item. What if I try and use this item in this area? Oh, it worked. You know, I wouldn't have thought about, you know, it has a few of those aha moments, and I got really stuck on them. So I'm glad I had the walkthrough, but I really enjoyed playing through it when I did. And
there's a lot of stuff with key cards and codes, and it's like, oh, you need to type this code in, and I was like, oh my god, I don't remember what the code was.
Yeah. And modern games help you so much with that shit these days. And when you're like playing an old game and you're presented with something like that, you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to get a piece of paper out or something like that.
in like the new Resident Evils, there'll literally be like a sign next to the puzzle, like, you know, literally just giving you the answer. Whereas in this, it's like, oh no, I left that room like 20 minutes ago and it's got this hint or something. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, sometimes the thing you need to do will just be so obscure. Like there's a puzzle like just over the halfway point in the game where I don't want to get into any spoiler territory, but something happens to Eliot and you're in this room and you can't go out the door and there's no obvious reason you'd think you could do anything else. And just suddenly you can climb a pipe on the wall.
That was the one.
Never been able to do it before. Yeah, nothing tells you that you can do it.
Absolutely. When I did that, I was like, "What the fuck?" The amount. And
that broke my brain the first time I saw it.
In the year 2000, playing this, like I was thinking, without a freaking walkthrough, like you would never. Like I think I did it by accident. I walked up to the wall and he kind of started climbing it. And yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
And were you thinking, could I have been doing this all along?
Yeah. You can climb every wall. And on spoilers, I mean, shall we be spoiler free or? I mean, we got to talk about the game. So
yeah, let's get a bit further in, and then we can kind of have a cutoff point. Because I imagine at this point, maybe there's a little bit more we can talk about as far as introducing people to the game who may be less familiar or haven't played it in a while, or think there's still some stuff we can cover.
None of us have said Dog's Bower yet, and that's very sad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dog's Bower is, I don't know, a character for a generation.
A dreamboat.
He's a character for every generation. He's an evergreen character.
And voiced by Dean Bristow, who did
Dr. Robotnik,
Robotnik and Sonic Adventure. And then, of course, the other protagonist of the game, Eliot Ballade, was voiced by Ryan Drummond, also in Sonic Adventure as Sonic. So that was kind of a fun little parallel.
And Janine is Rouge the Bat.
Yes, that's
Lani
right.
Minella.
Yeah. So there's that kind of connection too, and it also makes you wonder, like, how, I don't know, either tight knit and or just scrappy everything was between all the dev teams making games early on, who were just like, well, we got this voice talent or this orchestra we can hook you up with. Let's see if they can come in and do double duty and get both projects done.
It's the same voice crew on Mac and X as well, so I really think, those were the voices of my childhood.
What, the voices on this were the same voices on Mac and X?
So Lani Minella voices the main girl, Kay, and one of the scientists. Ryan Drummond voices one of the scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Dean Bristow's not in that one, but those two are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Actually, do you know what it is? I always played the Japanese version of Mac and X. And so that's why I didn't know.
This game also suffers from like the sort of early, I don't know, would it be 3D game dubbing thing where the lips move but like the voices don't match it? I think
it's very
D2,
charming.
D2 suffers from that as well.
Yes.
That is, but I have some questions about this, because when I played it on when I played it for the first time, all of the vocal lines were totally out of sync. I mean, even more than before. And I think I looked it up, and apparently, isn't it the PAL version over VGA doesn't?
I've been playing it on just not on is it composite, the yellow and red,
and it works fine.
No, it's out of sync. Yeah, it's like,
but is it really out of sync? Like, because I remember I played it and it was so out of sync that it was like the camera had left the person and the person was talking.
Yeah, that's normal. There's a bit I can think of in particular when you're on your way to Rats and Dogs is halfway through a line and it just cuts back to Elliot for no reason. That happens on every version,
it's just like an old dubbing thing that unfortunately was a thing of the time. Like I say, D2 suffers from it quite a lot as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has a lot in common with D2, actually. I think if you like D2, you'll like this, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the voice acting is quite good. It's just the gaps between the lines just really, it just ruins it so much. Like, it's like the weight between them chatting is and the timing's so off.
Is there just like more lines in Japanese? Because there
are a couple.
I guess there are, but even still, like even the Japanese version, the lip syncing never syncs up.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh yeah, it still doesn't look right.
Yeah, even though it's in English in both versions.
Do you reckon they were just like, make them talk for a bit, and then that was it, and then they just dubbed it over afterwards?
Just lip flap animation, just, get 30 seconds of that, and
Yep.
I'm gonna take a bath. Nothing's gonna stop me.
What you'll do if the monster attacks you while you're butt naked?
I'll fight back butt naked. Stop whining. Let's jump in the tub.
I'm not sure if this is such a good idea.
Hey, in the tub we go. Taking a bath in the middle of the battlefield. Ain't that cool?
Well, I guess.
Hey, you're more macho than I thought.
Shut up.
I'm just seeing if there's anything we want to talk about before because I do think reception and legacy and talking about like kind of how it was received is probably a good next point to go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so I was really surprised when I grew up because like it's so weird being like I guess we're all like roughly the same generation of when we were kids. Internet wasn't that big, and then it has become increasingly dominant over the course of our lives. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. But as a kid, like, I wasn't online very much. Obviously, we certainly didn't have any social media. So I didn't know how things were received outside of my group of friends. And my friends all liked this game. So I was like, oh, this is like a really well-received, popular game. And then when I grew up and started reading reviews online just out of interest, there's so much hate towards it. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's not my experience at all.
I hear quite negative things. I mean, the thing is I was playing the game, and we'll get to what my sort of impressions of it. But like there are things about it that are obviously flawed, but I don't know if you like the Dreamcast, like surely this wouldn't rub you up the wrong way. Like it's got Dreamcast charm. Like you know,
there's so much more to love than to hate about this game. I think there's just so much to love about it.
And also, it is a Dreamcast exclusive to this day,
and a release title or launch title.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the West at least, because I think in Japan it came out in March '99. It was supposed to come out around launch, but it, got delayed. And I do think because it was such a big, ambitious game, relatively speaking, I mean, there was probably no way they were going to come anywhere close to making the, the holiday season or by the end of the year of '98. So yeah, they pushed it a few months. I think Sonic Adventure only made that because they've been working on it for so long at Sonic.
Yeah, I see. And it was supposed to be for the Saturn, wasn't it? So imagine this thing running on the Saturn.
That'd be crazy. Frog Ball, if you're listening, please do Blue Stinger Saturn as your next like proof of concept. That'd be wicked.
We challenge you.
Yeah, for Christmas.
Yeah, get it out. You got like 2 weeks. Let's do it. Let's go. Frog Ball.
Yeah, but I think the big thing was that I mean, you might know more than this, Brian, but I've heard that this was kind of touted as like a Resident Evil kind of game, and that kind of did it a little bit of disservice as far as like people going into it with the wrong idea. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I think it also kind of worked to its benefit sales-wise because, going back, and I guess I didn't really talk about my experience with the game, but this was one of the first Dreamcast games that I had heard about. So it was one of the first ones that I saw in all the magazines and everything. And it did catch my eye for how vibrant it was. But yeah, I mean, the pitch, at least as it was described, is that, oh, well, you're going to be waiting a while for Code Veronica, the next Resident Evil game, to come out. But in the meantime, there's Blue Stinger. And so it was kind of maybe marketed a bit as a stopgap, at least in the West. And that's kind of how the impression I had taken away from the way it was pitched in the magazines as well. And so it was already anchoring that up until release. And so when it came out, that's also kind of what it was judged against from various outlets, again, particularly Western ones that were like, well, this is janky Resident Evil that, I think they were put off by a lot of the things that don't quite fit the checklist, so to speak, of what reviews were inclined to cover at the time. And, is the fun factor there, whatever that means, or the replay value, or the controls, or the difficulty. It's like, does it do all these things? And it's like, well, maybe, but it's kind of janky. It's kind of weird. The music is annoying. At least that's kind of how they perceived it at the time. And so, yeah, I don't think critically it was set up to succeed, but commercially it did. And I don't know where these figures come from. And I'm sure they were cited offhand in one interview or something, and then they just were repeated ad nauseum throughout the internet. But apparently it sold about 500,000 copies worldwide, which for a Dreamcast game of that era is really impressive.
That's great.
Yeah. So, a lot of people have played it and seemed to, if not like it, at least bought it.
I don't know if it did as well in Europe. It's definitely not in the top 30 in the UK. And I also hear, I think it was Mike Rogers who said this, that apparently the reason why Tony Hawk was published by Crave was because they were like, we don't want to do any more Dreamcast publishing after Blue Stinger. That's something I've heard. Yeah.
Wow.
God, that's funny.
And then obviously Tony Hawk was Tony Hawk. So it's like, why wouldn't you publish that, guys? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a copy of Edge. I think this is the Japanese version that they review, but they gave it a 5 out of 10, just to kind of and give you a little bit. And that was probably what a lot of them gravitated towards. I know EGM was like mostly 4s. That's the first review. That's the magazine I was subscribed to at the time, Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Did you cancel your subscription?
Yeah, you should.
I don't think I had that much of a personal stake in the game to care as much either way. And I still liked it anyway when I rented it when it came out. So, yeah, I didn't mind.
How was it received in Japan? Like, I haven't seen the Famitsu scores or anything. Did it do any better over there?
Could find out. I one time had them aggregated, and I have no idea where that is now. But 28 out of 40.
That's like what, about 75%. That's not bad. That's
better
not bad
than
at all.
Yeah, better than the Western average.
It's not as good as it deserves, but it's better than the ignorant Westerners gave it.
I actually think IGN was the most positive review I had seen, where they gave it an 8.4.
Wow.
IGN.
Yeah, they praised, especially the, I guess here's a quote from the thing, but the great visuals, great music, brilliant creature design, varied gameplay, incredible boss encounters, and deep puzzles make the Blue Stinger experience, and then it cuts off without giving me the rest of the quote.
Yeah,
well, just make the experience. Is what I gather.
They're not wrong, but these are the guys that gave God Hand 3 out of 10. So what's going on? But you know what? Good taste on Blue Stinger. Good taste on Blue Stinger.
Yeah, and that was for the Western version, I believe. Well, I guess we already kind of talked about the comparison between the two, but how would you recommend somebody who's considering to play Blue Stinger today? What would you recommend would they try between the two versions? Or what frame of mind should they adopt?
Definitely the less frustrating North American version.
The European or North American. Yeah, I like the camera in that one better.
Interesting.
I'd say the Japanese version is like, well, I didn't play loads of it, but it's interesting. But it's mainly interesting because I played the other version, and I was like, oh, this is a bit awkward, but you know. But it's quite interesting to see the game from all these different perspectives, and it really does change the flavor of it. But I would definitely recommend people play the North American version and give it some time, be patient. You might bounce off it, but it's got some really interesting quirks that it pays off later down the line if you can kind of like really get into the game. Because I've often found the beginning of the game quite slow, and the really interesting stuff doesn't come till later. So got to give it some time.
Yeah.
Lewis, which one did you play?
I played the I guess it's the American version because it's just whatever I downloaded. I was playing it on the GDMU actually because it's quieter than my disc Dreamcast. It's like night and day because I've got the fan mod in it. But so I played that, and just to add to like what I'd recommend people who play it now. Do what I did, and thanks to, I think it was you, Harvey, what I actually really enjoyed, I will add this about playing Blue Stinger, was I was just like sounding off with you guys in like this little group chat, and you were giving me all these tips, and it was like, it felt like, back when you were a kid and you like exchanged like tips in the playground. It's like, oh, you have to do this thing, and it was a lot of fun like hearing all those like suggestions from you guys. So what the big one that I think really took the game from this game's doing my head in to I'm really enjoying this game was, I think you, Harvey, said that in the area around the time you can rescue this guy on it's like a shuttle, is it? It's
an elevator, yeah. We need to talk about him actually. Carry on.
Near there in the room that like connects it to everywhere, there's some boxes, and if you, I think, climb up on them and then jump down, there's a metal bat, and that turns the like quite frustrating hand-to-hand combat to like so much more bearable. And, I'm going through and I'm like killing everything, and I'm able to like experience the game. Whereas before I kept dying, I was like, I'm going to have to load again. I think I did the bit where you save that geezer like 4 times because I kept dying.
Man. When I read a walkthrough and it said in it, like, get the bat, like it makes the game so much better. And it's a bit of a shame that it hides the bat from you because it's in a really tough to find place. It's like right behind a set of boxes that look like you can't get over them, and you kind of jump down the other side, and you're in this tiny little area, and it's just there flashing.
I mean, this is Shinya Nishigaki we're talking about in Illbleed, like the vital tool that makes the whole gameplay function is hidden, like at the start of the game in Illbleed. I don't know, the horror monitor.
God.
Like you actually have to look for it.
In the second level, they take it off you altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a mad lad.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I feel like for the longest time, I pretty emphatically recommended the Japanese version over the Western releases. And I might still prefer it, but I don't know, after playing them back to back, I kind of appreciate the Western version a lot more. And we alluded to it earlier in, how Blue Stinger was actually more of an action-oriented take on the genre in a way that maybe was unique for the time and maybe a bit jarring for the time. But I think what Activision saw in that when they mandated that, there was another interview that Nishigaki called it the
Gyro cam.
Yeah, gyro
I think
cam,
it means vomit camera.
Yeah. And which, to be fair, it does, have its own flaws where it gets caught in corners and it's always trying to keep the same distance behind you. And when it doesn't know what to do, it faces downward. And, but nevertheless, I do kind of, at least the core of that decision, I think is supported by what the game actually was versus what Nishigaki and his team were envisioning it as. So I could see kind of a push-pull that really made it really fascinating that was the decision they arrived to, and I don't think it was a wrong one in a lot of ways, at least conceptually.
I think if there is one thing that the internet's right about it, though, is that the loose camera in the Western versions is kind of bad.
It's never bothered me, man. Just click that L trigger, reset, Ocarina of Time,
So it's like when I was saying about when you go over the boxes to get the bat, when you drop down, you literally cannot see Eliot.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
I'll
you
give
can
you
see
that
his scalp. It shows you a nice close-up of his scalp.
Yeah, there's a lot, but there is a lot of areas in the game that are quite close quarters, and you or when you're trying to fight a boss and you literally cannot see the main character, that's when it lets it down. The thing is, I don't know about the Japanese camera. Does it restrict you a lot? Does it feel like he's too far away or something like that? So is this kind of like you say, the push and pull? It's not quite kind of perfect either way. Maybe, I don't know.
I would say it's very intentional about what it wants you to see and what it doesn't want you to see.
Yeah.
And so it does kind of obscure maybe some monsters that may be around a corner in a hallway, for example, that might attack you as you run by. For bosses, I think they kind of center on the boss, almost like a Z targeting, I guess.
Yeah, it's like you're constantly circling around it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I liked that a lot. And I think some sort of hybrid of the two would probably be the ultimate, if there was a remake, and maybe we'll get into that later, but might be the optimal solution here. Because there are moments where I think the environmental cues are very helpful to see where to go next or what to get next, or just kind of give you a little nudge based on the visual storytelling and where that camera, how that's placed. But I think there was also a lot of critiques of the Japanese version from Western media, in that the camera just in the Japanese version just gets confused just as often as the Western ones, because there are times it's constantly switching based on where you are in the level or in the environment. And so sometimes if you're in an in-between point, it will just circle around you if you're changing direction, and because it doesn't use tank controls, it just whatever you press is the direction you're going to go. And so when the camera changes, you have to change the direction you're pressing, and sometimes that leads to the camera just circling wildly around you if you're in one of those transition points, which is kind of annoying.
You know what? I think I'd rather have the floaty camera than tank controls, honestly.
Yeah.
The controls in this feel almost pretty modern in a way. I think it's the camera that is the sticking point maybe for someone who's used to new games who maybe would play this, I think. Yeah.
Oh, one other fun fact before we move to another topic. The Western version, when you pull the L trigger, I think, Harvey, did you mention that, or Dominic?
That you can see through their eyes. That's a nice feature.
You can do that. You can just hold it down and actually look in first person at the environment. You can't do that. You cannot do that in the Japanese version.
And I think that is a superior move, because that makes it more cozy.
Yep.
Yeah, but this game has I honestly think it has the most interesting and detailed indoors environments I've ever seen.
Yes.
When you go and you look around all the rooms, every single thing has been considered. I'm actually watching I've just got a gameplay running in mute in the background just so I can kind of see things. And you're in the Christmas room and there's all these Christmas decorations with it's not the Christmas room. It's is it the break room or something? In there's a theater, and it's just these amazing Christmas.
The Christmas Eve party.
in the apartment later. Yeah, Nick's Christmas Eve party with the big Christmas tree. It's awesome.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, there's so much consideration done, and I remember when I played through it, just going into first person and just looking at all the things inside on the shelves. And there's that bit where him and Dogs are they in Dogs' apartment? And there's the photos on the
Janine's
little
apartment,
photos.
yeah.
Janine's apartment, yeah. And there's the photos. Oh, I won't do a spoiler, but yeah, it's incredible. And there's one room that's got loads of figurines on all the shelves.
Yes, I love that. I took a screenshot of that the other day. And when I replayed it on the Japanese one, I was like, I wonder if the figurines are the same. They are. I was hoping there might have been some secrets.
They're all anime girls with boobs.
More pen call-outs.
Yeah, I love the Hello Market, just the absolute barrage of consumerism, and all these signs, and it's just like a fever dream going through that, like a Christmas fever dream maze. Yeah, it's like quite hellish in a way, but also very jolly.
They really nailed that feeling. One last thing I got to say about the design is the objects. When you pick something up and then it goes, yeah,
right,
and it shows you like a little blue screen in the top corner, and the item rotates a bit like Resident Evil. And the design on those objects is brilliant. All of the cards, like it has like Nick's ID card, and it says Nick and then his second name, and it's like really well. Someone's really put a lot of effort into designing all of these objects. Like you can tell that when they made the game, they wanted everything to be really, really detailed, and it really comes across.
Speaking of when he says "yeah" like that, my main memory of that is when you first play the game and he arrives at the island and he like walks into that first tunnel and there's like dead bodies and it's like, oh man, and it's quite intense music, and he like walks over one of the dead bodies because there's like something you can pick up, and he bends down over this dead corpse and goes, yeah, like that. And it's just
Sonic the Hedgehog going, yeah.
And that to me is just like Blue Stinger summed up in one bit. It's like the whole game throughout is just tonal whiplash. It never stops. And that to me is like, oh, we're in for a ride here.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'd never really noticed that when I played it, but when you said it to me, I was like, it like blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, like how did I not realize that? It's so funny. And it's like the crassness of it. It's so common throughout the game.
Yeah, because him and Dogs both have funny item pickup noises. Like Dogs will go, gotcha! Or, and it's so inappropriate when he's like picking up a half-eaten hamburger off a dead scientist or something, and he's chuckling to himself.
Gotcha!
And that's it as well. Like, just to one of the things that I think we were saying is that Blue Stinger makes you say the most bizarre sentences. Like, it makes you come out with phrases you never thought you'd say. I mean, just the fact that it's like, oh yeah, I just went up to this vending machine and I bought a sushi plate and it made me have more health, and I bought a hot dog, and and when you eat the hot dog, you actually have to wait for the character to consume it. So don't try and eat a hot dog when there's a monster, because you'll die.
Yeah,
that's so stressful. When you're trying to eat like mid-battle, they just and you it interrupts you. You lose the hot dog and you don't get the health.
Yeah, one of the phrases actually, Dom, you said is, a guy needs some medicine, otherwise he'll die of like his wounds. He's been bitten or whatever, and he's like, please get me this medicine. And you have to, in the weird Christmas hell maze of Hello Market, you have to do a pen stamp rally to get this man medicine. Like, why?
I think we've got to put the recording of that, the audio in. I'll rip it out of the game. We can put it in
the stamp rally like tune and stuff. I'm looking for Taco Pen.
Merry Christmas, and let's challenge the damn happy holiday. My name is Pen Sparky. Thanks for getting me.
What are you doing? Did you go to Rat's place?
I'm looking for Taco Pen.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, those famous Dreamcast characters, and it's like, why don't they do like Sonic or something? Do you think like they wouldn't let them put Sonic in or something?
So I think, Brian, did you say Nishigaki was mates with the guy that made Pen Triathlon, and he just thought it'd be funny?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I can't remember who I heard that from. Maybe was it Jorg when he was on our podcast a while back?
Oh, well, Jorg would know because he knew Nishigaki.
I think he had. Jorg had talked about. Yeah, that they were just buddies and they thought it would be kind of funny to do that.
I think Pen fits the vibe of that whole section as well. So
yeah, like when I was a kid, I didn't question it because I was like, oh, little like funny penguin characters. I guess these are like mascots that exist within the Blue Stinger world. And it wasn't until years later I was like, holy shit, that's a game.
Yeah,
and then I played it, and it's not a very good game, but it's okay.
Oh,
I loved it.
Don't get Brian started on Pen.
Well, we already had an episode in the books for the what was it, the Japanese 25th anniversary.
That's true. Yeah,
I talked about it quite a bit then.
We can do next year Christmas episode.
Pen. Maybe.
Pen special.
It's a great multiplayer game.
That's a game that makes you say weird sentences as well. Like, can't you give your pens like AK-47s and stuff?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I definitely need to revisit. I did not get that far. I just waddled about and swam a bit. I didn't know you could strap them up with a Glock.
yeah, and glasses, sunglasses.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah. Man, that's just such a quirky game. But honestly, that's kind of what I love about the Dreamcast. Just the hotbed it was for ideas that were, I don't know, it just had an indie spirit that captured a quirkiness of the era that in Pen, in Blue Stinger, in D2, like Kenji Eno's work is super indicative of the spirit of whatever you call it. It's kind of a even parts creative, even parts just off the wall, like batshit, whatever. It's such a fascinating time capsule, I guess, of games that like really only existed, or at least in this way, that were, even though they were indie games technically in their development or as developers, but they were published by larger companies that ended up being just a really endearing aspect of that era of gaming.
Thank you for 10 festastic years. This is Radio Sega's Winterfest 2024.
Hi, everybody. Ryan Drummond here, original video game voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, as well as your friend and mine, Eliot G. Ballade. It's hard to believe that it's been so long, dare I say a quarter of a century since we recorded Blue Stinger. It's been a long time, my friends. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you that are listening out there and supporting this podcast. I can't wait to hear it myself, actually, to tell you the truth. But the fine folks here at the Junkyard have been asking me to relay any stories that I have about the recording of Blue Stinger. And I'll tell you what, this actually does stick out in my head because if I'm not mistaken, it was the very first game that I recorded for the Dreamcast. And I believe I'd already been cast as Sonic the Hedgehog, but we hadn't recorded anything at that point. But we recorded this one first. So actually two things that I remember about Blue Stinger. The first one is that I got to record my lines live in a big booth, a mega booth, which was big enough to fit 2 or 3 people. And it was me and the late, great Dean Bristow. And we got to record all of our scenes together live. And I feel like that actually is kind of what led to the longevity of this game and partially why people love it so much. It's classic in its own right. But just the fact that Deem and I got to record together, which never happens, never. And in fact, may have never happened since then, that I've got to record in a booth with another person. And so all the scenes that Deem and I have together throughout the game were recorded at the same time. And I got to listen to him record his line, and then I got to, we get to basically perform it live. And they just recorded it. And that was really cool. And of course, since we lost Deem, and of course, for those of you who don't know, Deem went on to be the original video game voice of Dr. Robotnik in the Sonic games. And so I got to work with him on Blue Singer before we got to work together on the Sonic franchise. And that guy was such a dear, dear friend. Deem was such a nice guy. And I wish all of you had a chance to meet him, because he was one of those guys who had been in the voiceover game for his whole life. Oh, in fact, let me tell you the story. For those of you who haven't heard this one yet. So Deem Bristow had been in the voiceover game for many, 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 many years before I met him. And one of his claims to fame, as it were, was that he was asked to judge a talent show at a high school in Dayton, Ohio, back in the 70s. And I think maybe the late 70s. I'm not really sure what year it was, but anyway, while he was judging this talent show, this high school lady, this gal got up on stage and said, I do voices, and I'd like to be a voice actor. And she went into some of the voices that she did. And when it came time to, hear from the judges, Deem Bristow said, listen, you are good, and you could really make a career out of this, and you should keep going. And that girl that he was talking to was a young Nancy Cartwright, who went on to be the voice of Bart Simpson, among other things. And to think that maybe without Deem Bristow, we would not have Nancy Cartwright as Bart Simpson, which is just it's weird to think of the world without Nancy Cartwright as Bart Simpson. She's been doing it, for 35 years or something like that. So thank you, Deem, for that, for giving us Nancy and for all the voices that he got to do, that I got to do with him. And I'm very, very, very lucky that I got to do that with Deem.
Well, that was a nice Christmas surprise. This is Brian from the future, just splicing this in to thank Ryan Drummond for taking the time to record those wonderful anecdotes for this podcast. And we'll have a little bit more from him probably at the very end. And if you're looking for any gift ideas for friends and family, or just anyone you know who might be nostalgic for Ryan's body of work, you can check him out on Cameo, where he is available to record birthday greetings or holiday greetings, or just for the hell of it greetings. But in the meantime, thank you very much again for tuning in, and we'll move on with the spoiler portion of our show. I guess at this point, we've tried to keep it spoiler-free up until now, but maybe the gloves are off if you all want to get into what actually happens in this game, because, it's kind of an interesting story as well, and a lot of crazy shit happens, as you all have alluded.
Okay, you got Eliot Ballade, that's Sonic. You got Dogs Bowers, that's Robotnik. You got Janine King, that's Rouge the Bat, and they go on a heartwarming Christmas adventure to fight basically Godzilla. Let's go.
But how does it come off? It comes off with Elliot with his friend Tim fishing off the side of Dinosaur Island.
I forgot about Tim.
Where's Tim?
Tim's one of the biggest characters, man. How dare you?
And you have
his face gets very big, yeah.
And you have this naked blue floating woman,
Nephilim.
And she basically is there because Tim has her as a collectible model, and then she gets magicked into life.
Well, she's because for me that's I have always thought of that as like, is this a dream? Is this like Elliot's dream? Has he like fallen off the side of the boat, hit his head, and he's created?
It's not Silent Hill too, Harvey.
Yeah, we're getting into
that'd be amazing.
we're getting into like like the Pokemon creepypasta where it's like, was Ash asleep the whole time? Yeah.
So Nephilim, like, is the idea that Nephilim's like come to life, like the actual the figurine has come to life.
So my understanding is the alien like blue light thing is like some formless alien being, and it like sees that, and it's like, oh, this is like a creature on this planet, I'll mimic this.
That is
and
right.
then
I remember that.
I
That
think
is true.
like no one ever says that. Like no one questions why it's just like a naked blue woman flying around. Everyone's just cool with it. But that's all I could figure out. Like, and again, when I was a kid, I was just like, oh yeah, I guess that's just what happens. I didn't think about it. Like, I guess my dad didn't want to talk about it. He was like, oh, this seems weird. I won't bring this up. And then when I grew up, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's
I honestly forget that she's there, and then you'll just be like trying to do something, and her face will just appear right in front of the camera, just staring at you. And you're
It's
like,
a really
Flipping through
interesting
everything,
choice.
like no personal space. Read the room, Nephilim. Jesus.
Yeah.
She's got a big like Phantasy Star Online kind of energy to her though, because she's like blue and glowy and neon. She's cool. I like her.
Yeah. As far as cosmic entities go, they could have done a lot worse. Well, what's also funny is, and this didn't even dawn on me till recently, but like when she shoots down to Earth, which I guess that's the blue stinger, right? Because it's like a little pod with the
that's
the
it.
point. And so the whole idea is that I think she's trying to shoot down and then hit where the Godzilla egg is, right? And that burrowed in the ground and then destroy the egg, right? I think that's the goal or her motivation.
Yeah, that seems to be right because she does fight it at the end, so she seems like she's a good guy. There's a post-credits twist where she might not be, but you know.
Yeah, or where there's a lot of them.
And see you next adventure.
Still galaxy waiting. Full. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's also funny. I think there must have been an interview I was reading in ODCM or something, but where she was intended to be kind of help be a showpiece for the technical prowess and vision of the game as a light source, because
that makes sense.
Yeah, there were like multiple light sources where there's ones from the environment that they cast, but then they realized that they could make her kind of add to the vibrancy of these environments, and so they made her kind of shine that blue hue over every whenever she flew around, and so it kind of just added a nice little flavor to it, even in the bits that were a bit more, I don't know, drab. I think that was always kind of there in spirit through her.
So she was a tech demo like Doral in Virtua Fighter was basically just, oh, look what we can do, this shiny thing. Nephilim was like, look, we can do this shiny light character. But she really does add to the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is kind of funny, as you mentioned, like there's a lot of, even at the end, there's a lot of intrigue, or, she's kept a bit mysterious.
It is a mysterious game, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So what happens? We were talking about the I sidetracked by talking about Tim. So Tim's Elliot's friend, and then it's Christmas Eve, and they're fishing off the side of Dinosaur Island. And Dinosaur Island is that point where the meteor struck and killed the dinosaurs. Isn't that right?
Right.
Obviously millions of years before. And this game is set in the ripe old age of 2018.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah. I remember when all this happened. Yeah.
And
haven't been to Mexico since.
Yucatan Peninsula, man, it's just gone downhill since this.
As a sort of like quick aside, we are currently in the year of Jet Set Radio Future 2024. By the way, we are in the Jet Set Radio Future. Yeah, still not got cool rollerblades, but that let me grind upside down. But
speak for yourself.
That's all right. So then Eliot, it's Christmas Eve, right? At that point, and then Eliot gets a mysterious. Oh no, he wakes up at a lab. Or what do you call it, a lab or a city or a town on Dinosaur Island? But when you say town, it's more of like it's a bit like the big shell from Metal Gear Solid 2. It's like, looks like it's just been put there.
It's a company.
Because like the boat goes down, doesn't it? The boat gets attacked, and then like you say, he wakes up on, it's like a town on an island. Big shell energy though, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I get the impression the whole island is the run by the Kimra Corporation. They're like the Umbrella equivalent or whatever, and so they have their hand in everything. But because it's an island and they employees aren't going to be hustling back and forth in their commutes. They just have them all live in a functional company town, I think.
They made them the coziest place on earth to live. I wish I could work for Kimura Tech.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, after watching what happens in that game, oh, hell
Live
no.
in that little Christmas market, go in those little pods, play about in the control room, I'd be loving it.
Turn into a purple spotty monster, climb the pipes, you love it.
Or get killed by one.
You can go rent a video if you're like bored, want to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you can rent more than one kind of video in the Japanese version. We'll get to that.
Oh,
really? No way. Well, so then Eliot meets up with Dogs Bauer, who's the it's actually like an RPG sort of setup, isn't it? Where you like travel in a team, but the idea is you can't see the other player. You can switch between being Dogs and Eliot, and the idea is you're traveling around together because Dogs. What does he want from this, or are they just? Is it just like a swashbuckling? Like they just get together? He just
thinks Eliot's a wuss, and he just wants to find out what's going on.
Because he lives there, right? Because Eliot didn't live there previously. Is that right?
Or at least he was working there, like he was delivering. Because he's a ship captain, right? And so he was probably making a delivery and happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay.
But he's always in Rat's Bar. They know him there, so he must be a regular guy there. He's captain of the SS Diana.
He is. That was going to be a question on the quiz.
Oh, okay. Well, I got that point.
That would have been a good question. So does he work for KISS, KISS, and so does Janine, or does he works for what's ESER?
Well, ESER is the what is it? Evacuation C. Yeah, it's STARS. It's Eliot's thing that he's the Coast Guard.
It's like a rescue, but like a high-tech Coast Guard.
I kind of felt a little bit confused like the whole way through. He was on the boat going to the island, but then he complains the whole way through that he's on holiday, like he's on his vacation.
He's on vacation!
So he's not supposed to be there, but like he kind of was. Like maybe I missed something there, like the nuance of that, but... Yeah.
So he does work there, but he was about to paint the boat with Tim, and then it was agreed they were going to have some time off for Christmas. So I think they were going to party down on the island once the boat was fixed up. So then he gets to the island. Janine's like, "There's corpses everywhere," and he's like, "I'm on vacation." he can't be bothered with it.
I've always got a bit of a Die Hard, one day away from retirement type of thing. Like, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting.
It's my first day.
We've said this before, and like obviously I know that there is a Dynamite Cop game on Dreamcast, which is technically Dynamite Decker 2, which is the sequel to what was on the Saturn as Die Hard Arcade. So a lot of people say Dynamite Cop is Die Hard for the Dreamcast, but this is, I guess, if you're talking about a thing that isn't really supposed to be Christmassy but is, this is as close to Die Hard on the Dreamcast as you can get if you're looking for that kind of Christmas thing in disguise. Vibe.
Christmas adjacent.
Yeah, with a lot of machismo and big guns.
I mean, what we could do now for the remainder of the podcast is just do the Die Hard debate. Is it really a Christmas game? Is this a Christmas game or not? No, it's not a Christmas game.
Now that'll be good content.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure people would love to hang on. Radio Sega would not lose listenership at that point.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk a little bit. I'm sure we'll keep bouncing around for whatever comes to mind. But I wanted to touch a little bit on the weapons because there's a lot of them. There's 23 in the game, including a combination of short range melee style as well as long range guns and firearms and other stuff. What's your go-to? I guess we can start there. What would be like your S tier of all of the weapons that you've used so far?
I'm going to get up the fandom wiki page and just double check. But my first, the one that I always remember is the stun rod. So much fun.
Yes.
Stun rod's great. Yeah.
Got a brilliant sound to it. And actually, Lewis, earlier when you were talking about the bat, I forgot to mention, like, all the weapons have really brilliantly designed individual sounds. And when you whack somebody with the bat or the stun rod, the sound is fantastic. It's really satisfying. And the melee weapons are brilliant. But yeah, my go-to is the stun rod. What about you fellas?
Same. Stun rod for most of the regular enemies, and then also just the vibrant flashes of light that and kind of pseudo spark effects.
It looks amazing. It kind of trails, doesn't it? It like has a blue sheet and it trails. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's not as like ornate as the bouncing sparks that you might see in Soul Calibur, but it was still pretty impressive for how they faked it. Power fists I thought were pretty good too, just because they're fast. And they can kind of stun lock.
I only was able to get them because I did the money cheat, and they're so much fun. They're like little engines, little motors that go in your hand.
Yeah, like steampunky.
So cool.
I think we're also forgetting again a weird sentence that I'm going to come out with is if you give Dogs Bauer a T-shirt with a type of martial art written on it, he then knows that martial art, and that'd be great. You know, instead of having to go up all the belts to learn like karate or something, you just put on a T-shirt that says karate, and you just know it. You know, that'd be wicked. And that's exactly what he does because he has a weird kind of thing where he can't do melee without. Like he can't do Eliot can do melee and he can shoot a weapon, whereas Dogs can't unless he. Well, yeah, he wears the T-shirts, but then he can't use a long range weapon. So yeah, it's weird like that. It's kind of like, but I guess he has more health. Is that kind of like the trade off?
No, they have the same.
I think he felt a little bit hardier, but yeah, maybe not. Eliot knows how to throw a punch just generically, whereas Dogs has to have a look at his T-shirt and be like, okay, this says karate, and then he just starts doing karate. He becomes a master. And then the next day he's like, oh, this one says sumo, so today I guess I'm a sumo wrestler.
Yeah, I've heard that's one of the good ones.
That's an F tier. Because he just does the sumo slap, like the E Honda 1,000 hands thing.
Yeah.
And but he moves while he's doing it, so you can walk like that. So you're just this like turret walking forward, and it's just Dogs slapping, and he could just he outpaces basically everything, so you can stun lock even like bosses with this stuff. It's crazy. You can do a run of the game just like that.
Oh my god! So there's a karate T-shirt, a sumo T-shirt, a wrestling T-shirt, and a Jumbo Club T-shirt. What's the Jumbo
I think
Club?
The Jumbo Club is just a Jumbo Club.
Yeah, it's just a big like an Oni club, like a massive Japanese club.
Oh, sorry. I'm reading the wiki here. It says Jumbo Club, and then it says T-shirt underneath. So maybe there's a mistake here.
That would be cool T-shirt branding, though.
Jumbo Club? Let's make that.
Yeah, new streetwear brand 2024.
There's actually two places online you can buy Dogs' original yellow. Is it WIND T-shirt
with the hammerhead shark? Is it a hammerhead?
Yeah, and it just says wind. For some reason.
Wind. Is it wind? I thought wind was another made up company.
No,
acronym.
I think it's just the word wind. Is how I've always read it.
I assumed he was like a delivery guy, he was worked for this freighter company called WIND or something.
So I read it so I'm currently sat in a Japanese T-shirt, but I don't know what any of the characters say. And for all I know, it could say wind on my T-shirt. So I read it as because it's a Japanese made game, they're just like, oh, English characters, that's cool. What this word's maybe cool, that kind of thing.
That's a thing in Japan, isn't it? There's a good video by I think he's called Abroad in Japan, and he has a video where he talks about how it's quite cool and fancy to have English words on Japanese products, even if half the time they don't mean anything. I remember being in Japan, and this girl that was walking in the street near me had this hoodie, and it was just complete gibberish. It was something some sort of affirmational, motivational quote, but it just was complete nonsense. And I was like, does she even know what that means?
I saw a few interesting few interesting phrases on T-shirts while I was over there. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah,
I think that was the impetus for I remember going to English.com back in the earlier days of my teenager days surfing the internet, and I'd always have to check because they'd post basically what would become memes, but all of the funnier mistranslations and whatnot. But
I think there was some in the Japanese version that were removed, and I feel like we'll come back to that when Dominic lists the differences.
Yeah, there's a particularly good one that I like.
I don't know. They had quite a fashion sense. I guess we could say that.
I was just going to say you can buy Dogs' T-shirt on ggdreamcast.com. And you can buy
how much can I get that by Christmas if I buy it now?
It's $18.95, which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, Don't shipping 3 to 5 days. Let's go.
It doesn't say. But, it'll probably be like $10 shipping, maybe 15. But you probably can. But there's also another place online where you can buy a more accurate T-shirt. I'll have a look for it, and I'll see what I can come up with.
What if I just buy a yellow T-shirt and write "Wind" on it?
You can do that.
And draw a hammerhead shark. Sharpie. Yeah, we can post that link, Harvey, in the show notes whenever you find it. All right, what other weapons are we using? I think Napalm Launcher was kind of my favorite boss melter for most of the game.
Yeah, and not to want to come off topic here, but I know Harvey wanted to give a shout out to the guy that gives you the Napalm Launcher, the little worker in the shuttle.
Oh, poor one for my buddy. Yeah, so he is in the beginning of the game, close to where you get the bat. He's a guy who's stuck in one of those elevators, right? And you've got to kind of you go up to one of the computers and you do some sort of sequence, and there's this actually quite a long thing of, and it's like security doors activating.
Oh my God!
Well, it goes on for ever, doesn't it? And it's like
I saw that
it's perfectly reasonable
4 times because I kept dying.
Because you kept dying.
And it's like she repeats the same phrase over and over and over again. It's like, I get the point. Like, just let me go past this cutscene.
So you can either go up and you can either go up and you can kind of deactivate it, or you can go up and if you go up and deactivate it in time and you go to the elevator, there's a guy inside with a hard hat and a boiler suit. What do you call it? A onesie? No, a boiler suit.
Overalls or something.
Overall, that's it. Right.
You're burying the leader, Harvey. It's Duke Nukem.
Yeah, so then Dom went and told me it was Duke Nukem, right? And so then I thought to myself, I'm going to go to the Blue Stinger wiki and just cross-reference that. And he hasn't got a wiki page. Eliot has a wiki page, Dogs has a wiki page, Janine has a wiki page, Nephlin, and even Tim has a wiki page. Tim, the guy who's in the game for like all of like 4 minutes, or Lewis, you timed it, And Worker wasn't in there, so I made him his own Blue Stinger wiki page, and I got ChatGPT to write out the basically to make it. But I went in on the emulator and I took some like close-up shots of him, and I'm quite proud of it that I got some shots of him.
The Lord's work there, mate.
Yeah, I like that.
And I did a bit of diving online, couldn't find out his name, and I couldn't. What else? What was it? He is voiced by Duke Nukem, but that he's not credited as the guy who does Duke Nukem, right? And how did you know it's him, Dom?
Because additional voices on the credits of the game are John St. John, which is Duke Nukem, and Big the Cat, and just a random, not a random Japanese lady, but a Japanese lady I don't know, and I'm assuming that it's not the Japanese lady, so by a process of elimination it must be Duke Nukem that does him.
I heard something about Duke Nukem's voice actor doing like a trailer for the game as well.
Oh, he did, that's right, he did the Japanese trailer.
Phew, saved my life. You guys are rescuers? How many are saved? Is Devlin alive?
Chill, one question at a time.
Okay.
First of all, we are not rescuers. I mean, I am. I'm as lost as you are, and I have no idea how many survived.
I just want to actually quickly touch on that dude that you save in the shuttle, because that's kind of an interesting thing about Blue Stinger is it kind of has like this optional direction for some of the gameplay. Like it's not completely linear. Presumably he just dies, and like if you don't get to him in time, and you just continue as normal, you just don't get that gun. And another thing that's kind of like that is there's an area where you have to like you're in a freezer and you have to raise the temperature to get rid of these frozen over doors. And what I did was I set it to really warm, and then I went through it and I went into this next area, and it's like a swimming section, and I kept dying because I couldn't figure out the controls. I was like, oh my God, this is awful. Why is there swimming in this game? I mean, swimming in a lot of games is pretty bad, but I was thinking, I don't like this. So I died, and then I thought, hold on, I thought the thing said to set it to, there was like a different modes of like heating. So I put it back to the normal temperature, and it was just cold again. And when you go back to this section, instead of it being a swimming section, it's like an ice block puzzle. And then what I found is that the boss is just completely frozen, and you can just skip it. So if you that's just like so random.
That's so interesting.
Like, I love that there's like 2 versions of this section you can do, because I presume otherwise you'd have to fight him, but I'd walked past him and that was it.
I do love seeing him in the ice block as well, because the boss of that section is a big bull, like a big mutated bull. You do actually fight him later on in the apartments anyway, I guess a different one, but you can just see him just chilling out in a big ice block and it looks so funny. I really like it.
Yeah, I again, that kind of goes back to how maybe it's not subtle, because there's another computer terminal that like technically shows you the ranges, but I don't know, you kind of have to keep a lot of information in mind as you're going through the puzzles. And so they're like kind of simple puzzles, but the answers aren't always obvious, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I think it actually strikes a pretty nice balance. Even in the Japanese version, it's fairly manageable, maybe a little bit more difficult for things like the ATM cards that you find around, and then you can take them to the bank and get money off of them if you can solve the riddle for the 4 digits that each one requires for their PIN. And some of those, I think all that text is in Japanese, so you wouldn't really know unless you were translating, but that's like really the only thing that I think the only roadblock I can think that you'd run into language barrier wise by playing the Japanese version.
Yeah, all the other puzzles are either visually signaled or they'll say it in a cutscene in English. So yeah, it's literally just the bank cards you would struggle with.
Do you have the card key to the freezer warehouse?
Who are you? He's Dogs Bauer, captain of the SS Deanna. We're...
No time for explanation. If you want to live, give me the card key.
Well, I guess going back to the characters, I have a little bit of an exercise where I guess we're at Rat's Bar, if you can envision that. And we're all hanging out. We got each of the gang is joining us for Christmas drinks. Of course, you have Dogs Bauer. You got Janine King. You got Eliot. I don't think Nephilim, she doesn't strike me as someone who drinks. Plus,
Worker definitely is a drinker.
Yeah, Worker is there, and Tim
Worker's
has
there.
come along as well. Tim's there too.
Oh yeah, Tim. Yeah. This is after the events, or maybe
he gets off the boat at the end. He's fine.
It's the following Christmas. Everybody's kind of continuing to work through their collective trauma. Of this experience.
Maybe that is what the game is a metaphor for, just like the stresses of Christmas, and it's just like a big like dream that he has. Yeah.
Lewis, you've been playing too much Silent Hill.
So I guess what I want to know is of these characters, or of everyone who's joining us, who's ordering the mulled wine or the glue vine?
God,
Janine.
Yeah, I think Janine's a classy kind of a lady.
She's got class.
I think she'd drink a mulled wine.
Yeah, does she want a little more star anise in it, a little more black licorice?
I mean, I don't know enough about mulled wine to answer that.
Extra cinnamon sticks. And then, all right, well, who's getting the mistletoe margarita?
Eliot, because he's trying to impress Janine.
Come on. Yeah.
And he perceives that as a fancy drink.
Yeah, because he's an idiot and he thinks it's cool.
Or he just likes tequila. All right, whiskey and eggnog.
Dogs, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just spiked it. Good old spiked eggnog.
Yeah.
I think he's on the beers all night anyway, but he just gets one of those in to mix things up.
Yeah. Well, it's Christmas time, right? You gotta be a little more festive than usual, maybe.
When he gets drunk, he'll just shout lots of abuse at women and just be generally like...
Just a wholesome character. Just a
woman.
A woman.
What a bitch. That's the line.
What a bitch. I forgot about that.
After a really sorry, not to derail this, just because I thought of it. There's a really heartfelt section where Janine's like looking at a picture of Dogs longingly because of a tie that, well, spoilers, the gloves are off, aren't they?
Sure.
Janine turns out to be his daughter. So she's like trying to rekindle with her lost father, and she's like looking at this picture of him, and this is sad music playing. It immediately cuts across to Eliot and Dogs who are over somewhere else doing something else. And Dogs just goes, "What a bitch!" dismissively.
But then after that, or in a similar sequence, he's like, I bet she's just like her mother. Oh, no, I bet
snotty little brat.
Yeah, I bet her mother is just like her.
But yeah, Dogs is getting the eggnog, and he's saying problematic things about women, for sure.
Maybe a little too hard is he's hitting the eggnog. And then I guess that leaves Worker with the hot buttered rum. Do they have hot buttered rum here? I don't know if that's a thing I've seen.
I've not heard of it.
Never heard of it.
In UK.
It all depends if the player actually managed to save him, if he's actually here or not, to be honest.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, let's say canonically they did.
Okay.
I didn't save him, but he's here to remind me of the trauma of me not saving him, because I'm in Lewis's Silent Hill blue stinger now.
Yeah.
Or maybe he survived despite you not saving him, and then he's...
Oh, that's mouthwashing. You
just a little bit awkward.
That's mouthwashing.
There's another character that's not on the wiki as well, which is Rats himself.
Yeah, he's there too. He's serving the drinks.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, he's in the game, isn't he?
He's in the
behind
basement.
Yeah, man, I need to put him in the wiki.
Dogs, here to finally pay off your tab? Damn, he's alive. I was hoping you'd be dead so that I'd be debt free.
I'd love to see how big the tab was. How big is the tab, Dogs?
He's got a whole room dedicated to the tab. That room you find Rats in, that's just all working out for Dogs' tab.
Maybe the tab is a metaphor for the debt.
Yeah, Dogs is a far deeper guy than we think.
Yeah. It's the cultural debt that we owe to our communities. And then...
Go on,
you said he drinks beer a lot, and I bet that's true, although, I mean, no offense to Rat's place, but it just doesn't seem like a place that has a great selection of beer. Liquor and wine, absolutely. I've seen the cases they have downstairs.
Yeah, I was saying, I think he's hiding half of the good stuff in his basement, isn't he? He's like weird wine maze that he's got just hanging that he just hides in.
I am wondering if that's a Japanese thing, because I don't know about at the time, but when I was in Japan a couple of years ago, beer is like really marketed as like a drink for women. And like men drink like whiskey, like that's what men drink. So that seemed to be a real thing. So I just wonder if that's a cultural thing that like, oh, this is like a cool bar for men. Of course they won't be drinking beer. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I'm trying to think if they even... they must have a couple of taps at least for kegs.
I'm actually looking right now. I'm on the part of the gameplay from YouTube where I'm trying to see if I can see some taps. It's mainly liquor bottles behind the bar, actually. There's a tap. I see a tap. Side note: the front of Rats' bar looks like something like the Nickelodeon Studios. It looks like this weird like orange building with like black and white steps. It's so strange.
It's so.
Doesn't
80s.
it have two like backlit palm trees as well? If I remember rightly, outside of the door.
The
It's
inside,
really cool.
the design of it is fantastic. You got the pool table with the like brass rimmed pockets and the screws all the way down it. You got little coat hooks. You can see every individual coat hook. You got loads of different sized pool cues. They're not all the same size. Someone's really considered the way this place looks. It's fantastic.
There's really not much copy paste in this game. It's very, very asset heavy. Like that's another thing I like.
Impressive that, isn't it? It's so impressive.
I think we need to start considering Blue Stinger in the same like breath as Shenmue. Personally, like
definitely,
I already do.
Yeah, I do.
Actually, I guess real quick, Dominic, did you want to go through some of the other differences that you thought were notable between the versions?
I've got a couple here. Just I'll just quickly try and run through them in order. So we know that the camera angles are very different in the Japanese version. There's a few other things that are. So I've just noted a few down. Near the start of the game, when Janine first meets Nephilim, she says to Eliot, "It's just like Peter Pan." And then she later on refers to Nephilim as Tinkerbell. That becomes a running joke. That doesn't happen in the Western version, I assume, because of copyright reasons with Disney.
Sorry, do they speak in English in the Japanese version?
Yeah, all the dialogue's in English, yeah.
Well, that's mad that they've actually cut out English dialogue. Wow.
A couple of interesting ones in the Hello Market. The first one is a visual gag it does appear in the Western version, but you would miss it if you don't look up. The O has fallen off the front, so it just says Hell Market. But that's really prominent in the Japanese version. You can see it.
So good.
You can see that the... oh no, it's a metaphor.
Foreshadowing.
when you go upstairs to the the VIP floor where you get the heart medicine, normally when you go up there you fight a big boss and just go into the door and there's nothing, there's no writing on the floor. In the Japanese version there's writing to denote that floor and it says specially place. I assume it was just taken out because that's not grammatical.
That's not the right words.
I saw somebody post on, and I wish I could remember this person's name to credit them with this joke, but it was like the Silent Hill 2 letter, and it was like, I'm back in that specially place. You know, that thing.
Yeah.
Other thing in the Hello Market, there's a room that in the Western version just is not in any way notable. It's just I can't even remember what's in there. Yeah, well, there's 2 video stores, aren't there? Because
the porn one.
Yeah, there's the porn one. But I didn't know what was going on because I was just going in this door. Normally, it just opens in the European version, and it came up with a text prompt, obviously all Japanese text. But I just read the number 21. And I assume it was asking me, am I over 21? So I was like, well, I am now. And then, when I went in there, nothing explicit, but it clearly was supposed to be a pawn shop, you know? So not
Nice.
like a porno store. Let's see what else we've got.
That just reminds me of my experience in Japan where you just accidentally wander into like a porn section of a shop. You're like, whoa.
They just like separate it with like little beads or something. And yeah. That happened to me in Akihabara.
Yeah.
Even in the Japanese version, it's not like there's no.
Oh, it's not hardcore
nudity,
stuff, no.
But then there's kind of just like the bloody wall over the pinup and like that kind of that's like with the broken glass and that kind of thing.
Eliot literally has a naked blue woman floating after him, so he's seen it, you know.
That's another interesting thing about the nudity in the Japanese version. So if you guys are hardcore like me and you've beaten the game a few times, you might have unlocked some of the bonus modes. And one of them is swimmer mode. That's different in every version. So in the original version, I guess in the version that we would play. Eliot always has United States trunks. He has the US flag on his trunks. He doesn't have that in the Japanese version, just has plain trunks. Dog's Bower in our version has a sumo like thong, if you like, and in the Japanese version, Dog's Bower don't have anything on. Like Nephilim, he doesn't have any features either, so he kind of looks like, you know, when Mr. Krabs is naked on SpongeBob and he's a red ball.
Yeah.
He looks like
or
that.
like a more sexier Ken doll.
Yeah, like he's got the rugged chest hair, but nothing else.
Dom, did you say that's only on the second playthrough?
So to unlock that,
just for academic purposes, of course.
I think it might be might be the same premise as unlocking Mad Mode. I think you have to unlock it to beat the game 3 times.
Oh, you have to beat it 3 times
within 6 hours.
Think
to see
so,
dogs
yeah.
as junk.
But you also have to so to unlock swimmer mode, you specifically have to not rescue the lady in the lab from the little prawn monsters. And you have to drink at least 5 cups of free water. I know what you're thinking.
This is one of them sentences again.
What the fuck?
I know what you're thinking. There's nowhere in the game that you can drink water. There's one room in the lab where it says, "Would you like a cup of free water?" You have to access that 5 times.
Yeah.
Well, but what? How did you? Is this from the that walkthrough you had, or how did you?
I did not work this out myself.
How
I
did
assure
anyone
you.
find that out? That's crazy, isn't it?
I love that about games back then, just like the cryptic things you have to do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Imagine if there's stuff that we still haven't found.
Well, there might be.
Yeah.
Because, so Mad Mode's crazy. That is, you get infinite ammo for all the weapons, but you get automatic fire, so it changes the functionality. So, the plasma gun that's quite slow firing turns into, that gun off Quake 3 that's like a plasma rifle, and it's awesome, and it really changes. You can get, automatic fire and rocket launchers that go really fast.
The plasma launcher was already a great weapon, so...
It was, but imagine it going 10 times the speed.
And do all the enemies have way more health in Mad Mode?
No, so Mad Mode's not a difficulty thing, it's just about being mad. You just have infinite money, 100 hassies, every weapon, and infinite ammo, and auto fire.
And that's
but
third
then
playthrough?
That's third playthrough. But here's what you can do when you first playthrough. If you beat the game on hard, only in the North American or European version, this doesn't happen in Japan, you get big eye mode. Now, that's not interesting in itself. Oh, they got big eyes, who cares? But this is wild. it makes the gun model stay permanently. So Eliot will hold his pistol while he's walking, instead of it just appearing out of him. Why didn't they just implement that into the game?
I guess they wanted that was maybe something they were trying out in the game, and then they for some reason decided they didn't want to continue, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just put it in the
big high mode."
Big high mode. So,
That's interesting. That was actually something that I was chatting to a friend at work who used to play the Dreamcast back in the day, and I was like, "Have you ever played this game Blue Stinger? Because you had it at launch." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I played it a bit, and then I think he might have sold it or something." Little did he know he lost out on the best game ever. But he one of his things he immediately said was he has to pull his gun out. Like, why didn't he just hold his gun? And that was a thing for him. I was like, oh okay, so that's, maybe someone in the development team was like, no, we should have him hold the gun.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing for me until I saw it, and then I was like, oh yeah, why doesn't he just hold it all the time?
Yeah.
Another Japanese difference, he references Spider-Man when he's climbing Kimura Tower. He says, I'm going to be like Spider-Man. Again, cut out probably for copyright reasons. And then the other stuff I have is mostly to do with what the camera does, some interesting cinematic shots.
I was just going to say, that's interesting considering Spider-Man. Wasn't that an Activision published game?
Yeah. So maybe they could have swung a deal there, but they didn't.
Yeah. It's weird that even just the mere reference is something they would avoid, because realistically, I don't, especially at that time, I can't imagine there would have been any legal ramifications, or it would fall under fair use just in that
now there would be
passing mention that they would have. Yeah,
maybe they were just scared. They were just a bit worried.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Sorry, Dom, you were going to mention some of the interesting camera angles.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me tell you about them. Let me go back to that.
Yeah.
Sort of, I'd say, third through the game or something, you're on your way to Rat's Bar, working your way through the town, through the arcade and stuff. You come to a pier area. In the Western release, it's just a pretty unremarkable pier, and there's a weird fish poison puzzle that's kind of hard to work out. In the Japanese version, though, if you go around to the side of the pier, the camera pans right out really, really far and shows you this dead fisherman with a bottle of fish poison next to him, and it's this really cool kind of dramatic, slow, zooming out camera shot. It looks like it's off a film. And it's helpful for solving the puzzle.
Yeah.
Another bit that really benefits is, when you blow up that power plant cooling tower, so you can jump across a chasm by propelling yourself with the explosion. Yeah. Another just sentence. Yeah. On the Western version, that's so weird because you can hear the explosion sound, but you're like, I don't know if this danger's real or not, but then I guess if you stop, you would die. I've never stopped to find out. On the Japanese version, you can see the fire following you because it tracks you all the way along outside the tower, and it looks very dramatic and very cool.
Nice.
And the last thing was like a kind of a secret camera angle, if you like, or some hidden ones. Just things where they put in work that you might never see that I thought was so cool. So when you're climbing the Kimura Tower at the end, normally you just go straight to the ladder and climb it. There's no reason you'd go into the scaffolding bit in the middle. There's nothing there. But if you do that on the Japanese version, again, it goes over Eliot's head and does this really slow zooming out shot that takes you up every single level of the Kimura Tower in this really beautiful, detailed tracking shot that just no one was going to see. Yeah. Really. It's only for me replaying it and being like, I'm going to go in every corner and see every camera angle. Otherwise, I might have just blasted right past that. So just crazy attention to detail.
Yeah. I loved how that was one of the few moments where you could see all the letters of Kimura.
Yeah.
That make up the tower vertically. Oh, there was one other that I noticed just at the outset of the game, because I just played them back to back as well. The text crawl at the beginning. They just completely revised the language or the text they use. And I don't think it's better or worse. They didn't necessarily correct anything. It was just, I think they truncated a couple of sentences, and it just reads quite a bit different.
So I assumed the FMVs would be the same. So I actually just pressed start and skipped through those. So that's really, I've missed something there. I do apologize. Didn't do my due diligence. That's cool.
I only noticed it just because I literally played it right after finishing the other version.
There's actually something I thought was really impressive, and it's probably the last thing I've noted down here about the game was the VMU icons are really, really good. The little animation of him like firing the bazooka looks a little
very
bit
expressive.
like little like Mega Man-esque kind of thing.
Yes.
This is like you guys have seen these, right? I'm not just playing.
This is a real thing.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know if it was on my GDMU or something. Someone had like hacked it like a Chad, but like, they're like really cool little animations. And like the thing is, on the Dreamcast, often a game's just a logo and that's it. Whereas these are like very, like you were saying, Dom, very expressive, cute little animations. And I looked down, I was like, wow, that's really awesome.
The thing it reminded me of is Soul Calibur VMUs. You know, where you get your character and you get them like swinging the sword. It's kind of the same thing, like a chibi version of Elliot or Dogs, Or actually, I don't know if there's a Dogs one. I only ever noticed Elliot, but
Elliot has the bazooka, I think.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that was on there. This time I played it in an emulator, but back then, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't look down at the VMU. My VM2's finally arrived, so I've got a backlit screen now so I can see those sweet blue stinger.
It'll look good on that for sure.
Yeah, man. Another thing we should mention is Lewis. Didn't you share a link? It was just before we started recording, but it was about the potential or the rumblings of a sequel way back. What was that?
So I think the reason I know about this was like years ago when I first was like kind of properly getting into Dreamcast again after playing it as a kid. And, I obviously hear about Blue Stinger, it's a very well-known game. And I feel like I was reading Wikipedia or something. And, I was very aware at the time that, Shinya Nishigaki had passed away. And there's an excellent article we need to link in the show notes by, is it Gematsu or Gamma Sutra?
Yeah, at the time. I mean, they're a much better named GameDeveloper.com now.
Okay. But and so I could have put it down to just like Wikipedia, people edit it and say all kinds of nonsense. But I remember at the time it said that Shinya Nishigaki was developing... And I remember it being for the original Xbox, a game called Red Stinger, and I was like, "Oh man, they never released this." And I tried googling it, and I couldn't find anything. Red Stinger. Well, I've definitely read it online, and I remember I think it was a NeoGAF thread. And there was some people talking, like someone else had gone, I swear that I heard this thing about Red Stinger. And someone said, it was supposed to be on PS2 and Xbox. But then someone said, I think it was supposed to be called Blood Stinger. So there's like, an extra part to this mystery. But other than that, just that one thread, I've literally I can't find anything. And, I don't know if it was just like back in the day in a magazine, it was mentioned or something, but it'd be interesting to do some research to figure out more about that little kind of rabbit hole.
We need another Dreamcast Barber mystery solved, I think.
It'll be.
Hint.
Let's investigate it, guys. Seeing as I'm now part of your Blue Stinger guild,
We need Stinger Battalion, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. What should we be? The Blue Battalion, the Blue Boys.
Sure.
The Blue Swingers.
Oh, I like that.
Blue Swingers, brilliant.
So I've also found the other place where you can buy a Dog's Bower t-shirt. It's called, what's it called? It's called Game Informer.
Oh,
Game Informer.
Game Informer spread shop. And there's two Dog's Bower t-shirts that are both fan made. I like this one. And it's also, it's got a 25% off right now. And it works out being $20 with postage to the UK.
Will we throw it up in the show notes for the Blue Swingers at home to buy?
Yeah, I'll drop a link over to Lewis.
If you're looking for a weapon, forget about it.
I need a lab ID.
Check the wine rack, the one with all the tabs. You just might find one.
Thanks.
It's gonna cost you. Remember, you can't die until you pay off your tab.
So I guess as we wind down this episode, I have one more question I think we can go around and ponder. Now, granted, I think there's a lot of ways that maybe the original game still holds up. I mean, we still love it today. Well, we at least appreciate it, right?
I actually really like this game. I'm not going to lie. After I think as I was saying, after I got the the better weapon and I wasn't dying constantly, I was like really just enjoying the kind of kind of craziness of it and appreciating all its kind of quirks. And I must thank you guys for inviting me along this journey with you. So yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. and for just reminding us that we had talked about doing this and then finally like getting us to actually schedule something.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
But yeah, I guess with that, as much as we love the original, I'm sure none of us would say no to a remake if some developer, some charitable developer were to find enough Christmas holiday spirit in their hearts to make this game accessible to modern and future generations. What would you all like to see in a remake, and who would be a good developer for it? I guess we could start there. Who do you think would be a good dev? And it doesn't have to be Sega adjacent necessarily. Could be anyone.
How about Naughty Dog? The Last of Us Part 2 graphics.
Like AAA, proper, yeah.
I want to see the wrinkles in Dogs' face.
I was thinking more going like the dating sim angle. I thought that was quite a good idea.
Dating Doug Spowers, yeah.
Or like he is the main character and just like every girl he's like, a woman. And then the game ends.
Oh, well, hopefully he found love at some point.
Yeah.
I think it would need to be a developer does quite fun, bit more off the wall stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about Platinum? What do we think of Platinum?
Ooh, with the action pedigree. I could see that.
The minute you said fun, I was like, Platinum, man, that's a fun developer.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Dominic, your video titled Blue Stinger is the most underrated game of all time. You reference Platinum Games and as Astral Chain as well, don't you? So I get what you're going for.
Astral Chain's got really big Blue Stinger energy. Like, it's not quite as bonkers. It takes itself a little bit more seriously, but it's still a really crazy off-the-wall story. It's got bizarre creatures and funny combat and just a very, like, neon futuristic Japanese vibe. So, like, I feel like if you like this, give that one a look at least. But yeah, that's why I think Platinum.
What do we think about maybe RGG Studio?
Oh yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
like that in the Yakuza engine. So like, going into that real cozy, walking around for 100 hours around Dinosaur Island. Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they already kind of covered that ground a little bit with Dead Souls, right, on the PS3.
I've heard good things about that. I haven't played it, but yeah.
So there's certainly some continuity there if they were to pick up that project.
And they did Binary Domain, which is on my to-play list for this Christmas.
See, actually, what I want is a remake by Team Silent. Let's get them back together. Don't even have them make a new Silent Hill game. They're going to make a remake of Blue Stinger with all the metaphor that I crave.
Silent Stinger.
Yeah,
Blue Hill. Blue Hill.
Blue Hill.
Yeah.
So nondescript.
I also... I don't know, I think it'd be kind of... Well, I don't know who at Capcom who did the original like Dead Rising is still around, but man, it would be kind of fun if some of that team was involved too. I feel like for me, Dead Rising, I know I also played that like very recently. I think that continued a lot of the themes, or built on or built up and expanded a lot of what Blue Stinger had originally done, just as a action-focused, zany beat 'em up of sorts, but on a larger scale. And I think there's just a lot there.
I think Blue Stinger, like you're saying with the beat 'em up stuff, it reminds me a lot of Dynamite Cop on the Dreamcast. Like it's got that same kind of, just you walk, like again, a Dynamite Cop is like you walk in a room and you beat a random dude who like skids across ice and you hit him with a fish or something. That's another game that makes you say weird sentences. So it has that in common with Blue Stinger.
Yeah. Yeah, good times. So I guess just in general, like for a remake, what would you all want to see?
Running animation that doesn't look horrible. I would also. I think if someone did remake it, I keep banging on about the design of the rooms and the signage and the assets in general. I would love that, because you don't really get it to this level in modern games. the amount of like stuff, all the objects and assets that have been considered so heavily. Maybe in a Kojima game they do it, but I'd love to see that in like really pristine modern graphics, just shelves of objects and things, and you can shoot them with a gun and they all fall and you throw them in the fireplace, all that kind of stuff. I'd love to see that, but I'd also like to see, them playing into the kind of campy humor of it, but in an intentional way. I think that would be brilliant. At the same time, making a very solid. I wouldn't say survival horror. I'd say over the shoulder action game.
Would you want like the environment design to be maybe like in the spirit of the original without being a facsimile? So like kind of changing the map layouts and maybe making them a little more practical or functional, but like less maze-like maybe?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I was just going to say, I think that'd be nice for novelty. I mean, obviously, in terms of someone new coming to, if it got a remake, it wouldn't matter to them. But for me, I've got the original, I'll always have it. So if I was going to play something new, I'd maybe like it to be tweaked a little bit different, so I maybe get some surprises.
Yes.
Like I feel like the environments of Blue Stinger, like if you take something like Hello Market with the absolute barrage of colourful signs just everywhere, it kind of reminds me of like like a Windows 98 that screensaver, the maze one. It used to be able to change it in control panel to have like the jazzy effects and so it just looks like complete madness. And I feel like games these days would they try and be too minimal and They'd maybe even say something like the environments are almost a bit, I don't know what you'd call it, like a bit kind of
like it's gaudy or loud.
Gaudy, that is the perfect word. Like it's so gaudy, and I feel like they'd be too cool for that. But thing is, we're in a stage with the internet where like irony is king and gaudy is cool again. Like you get people walking around with like t-shirts or like word art on them. So I think
Blue Stinger's time to come back, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We're in a
really is.
Perfect time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm also just, my head goes to just quality of life stuff too. Like even just having a button to switch between the two protagonists without having to go through the menus for weapons and all of that, just like assign button inputs now that
like multiple camera options in the same game.
That'd be cool.
So maybe what we want is Blue Stinger to come to new consoles just as it is, but with some kind of change, like minor sort of tweaks. Like how they're doing with Soul Reaver, like putting the compass in and stuff.
Yeah,
like
that would be really cool, actually.
Or the Jet Set Radio HD port on Steam, where like they've just added analog support, so you can swivel the camera around with the right analog. Yeah. Makes such a big difference. So like even that'd be really cool.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I remember like I think it was during the pandemic when we had time to look at things. I remember on Twitter there was this big debate about who owns the licenses to, I think it was Illbleed we were mainly talking about, but we couldn't figure it out, like, because so that's the problem. Who owns the license to this game? It's probably like in a desk somewhere, because was it was Climax Graphics, did they become Crazy Games? And
yes, that's right. Yeah.
And then Crazy Games went bankrupt, and I don't know who they sold. I think someone online said who they sold the assets to, but then I think that company maybe had gone bust as well. So it's like it's a little bit of a trail, unfortunately. So
Well, Nishigaki started working for Sega because his last game he did was Maze of Kings with Sega WoW, that arcade shooter. So like Sega might actually own it.
Well, yeah, I think he's still... I mean, Crazy Games was still independent at that point. They were just brought on as a second party to co-develop it with Hitmaker.
Yeah, I found it here. Someone on our Twitter, I found the old conversation. So apparently the rights went from Crazy Games to Caviar Games, then to AQ Interactive, and then on to Marvelous. So, I don't know. I did ask underneath what's your source, and they were just like, it's a secret. So I don't know if that's just complete rubbish, but maybe.
Wild. Well, hopefully they're listening and at least have 4 sales that they can count on if they undertook this project.
Yeah.
Look, if Bullet Witch for the Xbox 360 can get a port and come back, this can. Let's make it happen.
Anything else you'd want to see in a remake? Maybe like a map that actually doesn't suck.
Yeah. Actually, the maps look a lot like the maps from Metal Gear Solid 2, the big shell. Very, very similar. The kind of like segmented 3-dimensional thing, and then it flashes red. Really similar.
Yeah, I like the look of the map. It's very of the time. It's not very
really,
functional, but it looks
doesn't really,
cool.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
Well, maybe like keep that in, but like have a little button to click if you want a more conventional looking map as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But keep that in because like it's got that cool like Front Mission 3 like cyber techno energy. I like how it looks.
Enjoying the Winterfest? Why not keep listening to Radio Sega once it's over? There's plenty of live shows, and you can even request your favorite music from our playlist. You're listening to Radio Sega, playing the best Sega music 24/7.
All right. Well, I guess with that, I mean, does anybody have any closing thoughts? And maybe we could go along the lines of, I don't know, what makes this game unique? What makes it a unique part of your Christmas traditions?
Lewis, you're going to be adding this to your Christmas tradition, so I think you should start.
Yeah, I actually noted down on my list that this will be a new Christmas tradition because it is so Christmassy. Like, it's not even, just a little bit. Like, there is just a whole section that you're in for quite a considerable amount of time. And like, I've not actually reached the bits later on that return to the Christmassy part bits. So
yeah,
I just think this game is just quintessentially Dreamcast. It is absolutely nuts. And if you can get past the kind of wonky camera, which I think I have at this point, it is just so much fun. And yeah, just make sure you get the metal bat so you don't get really angry like I did and tear my hair out, of which I don't have that much left. But yeah, it has a lot of things that it tries to do, and it doesn't necessarily do all of them correctly, but it is a hell of a lot of fun, and that's what I'll leave you there with as my thoughts.
How about you, Harvey?
Definitely adding it to my Christmas list, and something I've realized to my list of things to do at Christmas. But something I just realized then when Lewis was talking is that Nishigaki made the perfect Halloween game, and he's also made the perfect Christmas game, hasn't he? Which is quite nice to think about. The thing I love about it is I just love that it's full of interesting ideas that keep getting thrown at you, and they're always ideas that you haven't really seen anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a, wow, they did this, like over and over and over. And that's one of the things I love most about it.
That's a thing that is just, like I say, just you see that in so many Dreamcast games, don't you?
Yeah.
Obviously someone might scream if I do the comparison. Like, I know I did it as a joke, but Shenmue is another game like that. It has so many different ideas that it does. And it, again, some of them maybe not quite, maybe don't work as well as others, but, it all comes together in an enjoyable game at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, the developers were taking risks back then, weren't they? They were really like testing testing the grounds and seeing what would stick and just going for it. They really, really did. And I respect that so much.
Yeah, and everything wasn't focus tested to hell, or it wasn't. I mean, at least in other, I guess, in more fiscally responsible companies, maybe that was true. But certainly at Sega, I think they were kind of just in a desperate enough position where they felt like the ideas and creativity of the developers are what drove the system to that was their Hail Mary, so to speak. That was their best chance of differentiating themselves on the market, or the console on the market, is like, well, what kind of innovative and forward thinking and revolutionary concepts can we let our both first and second party developers unleash to help define what might be trends that could stick, what thrown at the wall could stick. And a lot of stuff that was ahead of its time, for sure. How about you, Dom?
So I guess echoing what some of you guys have already said, just the uniqueness of it, the fact that it is so incredibly Christmassy, and there's such an attention to detail, and not like, it's not ironically Christmassy. Like, obviously it is funny that it's like a very violent action thing, but like the Christmas parts actually feel nice when you're at Nick's Christmas party later, even though Nick's dead and there's corpses everywhere. It's kind of got a nice setup, big Christmas tree, the fireplace looks nice. It always makes me feel happy playing through it. And I think that, like you say, that idea of it not being focus tested, or like this idea that games nowadays, not all games obviously, but a lot of games are kind of made by committee in this way where they try and appeal a little bit to everyone and end up appealing to nobody. Whereas Blue Stinger is the opposite. Nishigaki was just like, I just want to do this one incredibly weird thing and somebody's going to like it, and look, we all did.
And then he made a second incredibly weird thing, didn't he, when he made Illbleed?
Exactly. And again, I like that too. So there you go. 2 for 2 for me.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, even going back before this, as he was establishing his pedigree, like Dark Savior's a pretty good game too, in hindsight.
Oh yeah, I need to go back. I've played a little bit of that, and it's very unique. Like the combat system's so strange, but I haven't got very far in it.
It's like a black box. I've never seen anything like it.
Can we get to the electric system?
I guess. We have Chris's ID.
Good. I'll go. Hey, dogs.
What?
Stay with Janine. I kind of have a bad feeling. When it comes to bad luck, my hunches tend to be right on.
Never mind. I don't need a guardian.
Lewis, do you want to take us through where Dreamcast Junkyard and everything can be found?
Yeah, absolutely. The blog is the dreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. We're also on a variety of social media. We're on Twitter or X at the DC Junkyard. We're also on Blue Sky. We're on Facebook. We're on Discord. We're on YouTube. We have merch that we've just put out. We also have a Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee if you want to support the what we do. Shout out to our Patreons as well. I just want to name a few of them here. So these are our recent patrons. So thank you very much for supporting the Dreamcast Junkyard. We have N. Sanders, Willis A. Alvey, Ross Kilgariff, Massimiliano DiMarco, Wombat, Thomas Rugler. We also have Dreamcast Enjoyer. I wonder who that guy is.
I don't know.
Thank you very much. We also have Lee Sparks, and also a big shout out to Shiloh Tenenbaum, who he gave an extra donation when he placed a merch order. And obviously, thank you to everyone else who's ordered merch as well. So, yeah, thank you to all who support.
Yeah, and where can people find you all? Dominic, your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, so I'm not a very social media savvy guy, so I've just got the YouTube channel, and I'm on Blue Sky. Either way, just search Dreamcast Enjoyer and you will find me. I think it is literally just youtube.com/ I'm sorry, that is my channel in the background. I had to get the URL up to remember it. Just type in Dreamcast Enjoyer on YouTube, you'll find me.
Nice. How about you, Harvey?
You can find me on the music places. I make music under the name Pizza Hotline. You can Spotify is a good one, or YouTube, or don't type me into Google. Pizza places will come up, unless you want to order pizza, of course. But yeah, that's me.
Also, you have just had some music announced in C Smash VRS. Is it the new version of it?
Yeah. I can't believe it happened. The reimagining of Cosmic Smash. I'm so thrilled. It's a Dreamcast IP and the C Smash VRS reimagining on the PSVR 2. So yeah, I've got 2 tracks in that, which I'm so happy about it.
That's so cool.
One of them samples Cosmic Smash as well. Yeah. Shout out to Derek who retrieved the samples for you, right?
Shout out to Derek. I wanted when he goes Cosmic Bus 727, in the game. I really wanted those raw files and I could not find them online. So I hit up main man Derek and he cracked into the GDI, ripped them all out for me. It took him quite a while, actually. I'm really thankful. And I have them now and I put them in a few tunes, and York to Tell, the guy who runs the company who developed C Smash, heard the tracks and he was like, wow, this is so cool. Do you want to put them in the game? So it's a really interesting kind of like roundabout way of, the original vocal samples ending back up in the reimagining of Cosmic Smash. Yeah, I'm super chuffed.
Is it worth mentioning as well, that's the same York to Tell friend of Shinya Nishigaki, so there's a link to this episode.
That is worth mentioning. So they're friends, right?
Yeah. There's
cool.
I recommend listening to the episode he did with us where he talks about all the times and there's a very very cool. There's a he's in Illbleed, isn't he? As a kind of a character.
You can play as him. Yeah, he's a playable character.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. I haven't heard that episode with him in for a while, but I'm definitely going to listen to it again. That's so exciting. That's a cool way to round out the episode.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on that, Harvey. That's pretty sweet.
Thanks, man. Oh, and do you want to plug yourself, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really on social media too much, but you probably Blue Sky's the closest thing to it. Just Jet Brian Radio. And then I do have a blog site, which I haven't updated in over a year, but that's thevirtuaplanet.com, and that just has various musings of basically the stuff that's not Dreamcast related that I think of can go there. And then I occasionally, very occasionally, maybe like once or twice a year, contribute something to the blog, the Dreamcast Junkyard.co.uk.
And you should read Brian's article about Blue Stinger, like a very Christmas-themed article. I recommend that as something you can do this Christmas. That is a great piece.
Yeah, it's kind of fun doing holiday-themed stuff like that, or anniversary-themed stuff, because then you can just like repost it each year. So you just have to write it once and then...
Yeah, nice.
Lewis, did you plug your socials? I can't remember if you just had.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at LewisJFC. Go follow me. That's pretty much it.
Nice. Well, thank you all for joining in this fireside chat, and then also thank you for the listeners, whether you found us on Radio Sega or now tuning into their Winterfest. Thank you for sticking with us, and welcome. Hopefully, if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast, which is on all the major platforms, I think, Spotify, Apple, Google Play. We'd appreciate it. And then for our regular audience of listeners who are already subscribed to us on said platforms, thank you also for listening to us one more time. With that, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays and cheers.
Cheers, yeah.
Nice one, guys. See you later.
All right. See you guys. Thank you so much. Hello, howdy. This is Brian again from the future, and since we recorded this episode, we actually had a few more patrons join the Dreamcast Junkyard patron account, so I'd just like to take a minute to shout them out here, and they are Smarty, Anthony Harrop, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that either way, PP Burns, nice, and Gary Meacher. Thanks guys, and happy holidays. Also, we just have a few more parting words to kind of put a bow on this episode. But as you can probably tell by now, Blue Stinger is just a game that means an awful lot to us, whether we've enjoyed it since it launched 25 years ago or since just last week, in Lewis's case, I guess. But in many ways, Blue Stinger continues to resonate with us kind of like the Dreamcast still does, honestly. It's a similarly ambitious yet deeply misunderstood work that continues to endear itself to us with its sheer charm, and it's solidified itself as one of our favorite holiday media traditions, I think it's safe to say. We've been excited to be able to share our enthusiasm with Blue Stinger for you on this episode, and we'd again like to express our gratitude to Ryan Drummond for sharing some of his experiences recording his voiceover work on the game, and in working with Dean Bristow, who will be forever immortalized in our hearts as Dr. Eggman, the Conjurer in D2, and of course, motherfucker Dogs Bauer. So with that, here's Eliot G. Ballade to take us home.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody once again who is listening to this podcast, and I hope you have a great holiday season. It doesn't even matter what you celebrate. Just go out there and do all the things that human beings like to do. I'm talking food and laughter and music, friends and family, maybe a gift or two, but don't make it too much about that. Go out on an adventure. Go ice skating in the rain. Do something like that. I swear to you, you will remember that more than you'll remember any sort of gift that you got, most likely. So, my love to everybody out there. Thank you for playing Blue Stinger all these years. And I can't wait to hear the podcast. All right. Take care, everybody. Happy holidays. and buy from Eliot Ballade.
This is the Dreamcast disc. 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 And is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers. Please stop this disc now.